So I've divided the month into 2 parts, so each is just about 2 weeks of food. So that's what 2 weeks of food should look like, roughly. You can see now why I used a tea cloth, so I can get it into a nice shape, evenly distributed. And now I've got a nice amount. That's how much 2 weeks of food roughly is. I can now divide it up like I did earlier, roughly halfway. So that's what 2 weeks of food looks like. I've divided up halfway. And so there's 1 week's of food. And I'll do the same as I did before and put it into a dome. As you can see, I've now got it into a dome shape and I can now divide it up. I got it into a dome shape by just doing this. Remember, it was like this, although simply use the cloth like this to get it into a dome. The only reason you want to get it into a dome is so you can divide it up evenly. Right, once it becomes symmetric, it's easy to do. Remember, I've got 2 weeks. I had to, sorry, this is a week now. Divided up that week's worth of food into 2 parts, as you can now see, and I will put half back into the bag, and then that will leave me with about 3.5 days worth of food. Okay, so there's the 3.5 days of food. I will once again get that into a dome. There we are then, I've put it into a symmetric shape, so I can now divide that up into 2 as well. And then that will give me 1 3/4 days of food roughly. And that's based on about 30 grams for an animal of Percy's weight, which is 1.7 kilograms. You can do a little bit more, possibly up to 40 grams. I'm just about to divide up this 3.5 days worth of food. So there's your half a week, or roughly 3.5 days worth of food. Probably I'm going to divide that now. I'm going to call that 3 days worth of food and divide that into 3 parts. Okay, so I've divided it into 3 parts. I've done it by eye. I would say that each one is about a day's worth of food. I would say that's about 30 grams a portion, possibly a fraction more, 35 grams a portion. I'll show you in terms of a handful in a moment. Well, you can see it's roughly a small handful of food, each portion. Yeah, it's about a reasonable handful of food. That's it. The amount of food that would easily fit in the palm of your hand like this is probably about all you need for a day's food for a rabbit of Percy's size. I've taken all the other foods off the sheet, So you can see, so that's equivalent to about a day's of food of pellets for Percy, a 1.7 kilogram animal. The recommended amount is actually on the pack. Here, for example, it shows the rabbit, the largest being the English, then the Dutch, grams for the smaller Dutch animal, and the English going up to 3.6 kilograms, 70 to 100. So twice as much roughly for the English over the Dutch. Now Percy is actually smaller than the Dutch. Remember, this is for a small rabbit. That's what it looks like in your hand. It should just fit in your hand quite comfortably. So that's how much I would give Percy a day in pellets.